Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in. This little video is all about my snare collection that is knocking around the house most of the time and appears in some of my posts and stuff. And I've had a few my drum students message and say, what are those drums? And also some, I know what Instagram's like, they go all around the world, and drummers from Brazil and Portugal and France and stuff, and the good old US of A, of course, message and say, hey man, what are those about and stuff. We can all get a little bit nerdy about it, which is great. So I'm not going to go into massive in-depth stuff about the drums. I'm just going to go through what I've got and kind of why I've got them. I used to have, I think there's a picture kicking around somewhere which I'll have to dig up, of me in my father's old office at my old house, my sort of family home in Corsham. And I think I had like 25 snare drums laid out like this. And I was stood above taking a shot, and over time, finances got a bit tough and I had to sell some, and stuff like that. And some I wish I'd never sold. It's that classic thing that we all do at some point. But there also became a point for me where I thought I could keep collecting loads and loads of snares. And it could be a bit like a snare drum graveyard where they come to rest. But I was thinking, I also like the thought of playing them and actually having some that I own, that I play, or actually all of them at some point. Obviously I can't play them all at the same time, but that thought came into my mind, and I thought, well, there's nothing better than selling an instrument to somebody that really wants it. So I sat on some Gretches, some Slingerland, some Ludwigs that really were just in cases and just gathering dust. So I thought, right, it's time to move them on to somebody who really wants them. So over the years they disappeared to various corners of the world, and if you're watching this and you have one of them, I'd like to see a picture, see how she's doing. But yeah, so this is kind of what I've ended up with, and most of it, I'd like to say all of it actually, is stuff that I really need and I really use. You'll see some pictures of me at the studio, whether it be Riverside Studios, Real World, Rockfield, Holt Studios, Narm Studios, and I'll have the good old trusty DW on there, which isn't here today, that's with that kit. The trusty, 14x7, I think it is. That's a collector's, that's amazing. And nearly everyone I work with says you must bring that snare drum the next time that you do a session, because it's just killer. And it is. It's just great. It tunes right up, very sensitive, and it tunes right down, and you start putting some moon gels on there, and we start getting like an 80s Lindrum kind of vibe, which is great. And there's all the grades in between, which as drummers, as we know, and sound engineers, there's many. If you've got a good snare drum, if it's not such a good drum, you've kind of got an A, B and a C, if you like, not the notes, but just where they could be tuned, and anywhere in between can get a little bit funky. And I've also got a 13x5 collectors as well in broken glass sparkle, which my whole drum kit is. That's the same as the one I just mentioned, the 14x7. And those two drums do most of my sessions and most of my gigs. As I say, I can play a nice brush thing on the 14x7 because she's very sensitive. I don't always have to take out the 13x5 because you think that would be better for brushes. They're very well made drums and I can do anything with them. So after that, the rest of this is all kind of little bit collectors, nerdy drummer kind of thing that I want them, and the other part is, are they useful in the studio? So without further ado, let's start looking at these drums. So the first one here is 14x5. This is a jazz festival. This is from 1967, I believe. I haven't got my glasses, but it'll be written in there somewhere. This is a great drum. I got this from a dealer in the States. I can't think which one it was now. Before I come on, I thought, oh, that's the shop, I'll talk about it. And now I'm here, I can't remember, so sorry. I'll put that in the details below. But this is a great drum. It goes with my White Marine Pearl 1967/68 Super Classic, which is just over there, which I'll probably do something on at some point as well. So it matches perfectly. They're about the same age. There's a little bit of yellowing in the finish sort of here, which again doesn't bother me. I don't really go for collector's drums, I go for player's drums, if unless they're really unless they're really skanky and really damaged, you know. I'll always go for more of a player drum, really, if I can, because I know it's lived a little and it's got a story to tell, and it's in the shell, and I feel like when I'm playing it, it's sharing that with me. And I know that could be a bit daft, but I know a lot of drummers that think that a similar thing. So that drum's brilliant. I used it on a session at Real World a couple of months ago. You would have seen the pictures, and I've got a picture on the wall of that drum kit, actually, of the 68 there, but you can't see it right now. And there was a certain sound, and now this is going to sound daft, but I was listening to the sample snare, and I was thinking of like Levon Helm, Jim Keltner. I was thinking of all that kind of Californian sort of world of, you know, like the late 60s kind of sound, Harvest, that album, you know, that kind of world. And instantly I had like 4 snares on the stand, the stage where the drums were set up, and I just knew it was going to be this one. There was something about the pitch, and with a few moon gels on it, we got the pitch, and it just sounded perfect. And there's a certain kind of, and that seems obvious, it's a vintage drum, it's going to have a vintage sound, but I can make my 14x7 modern drum sound like a vintage drum with some tuning and some care and attention to where you put the moon gels and what sticks you use. I mean that's a big thing, what size stick you use, because you can get a drum that's like your hero's favourite drum. One, it's never going to sound the same because it's them playing it, not you, but also it's the size of stick. You know, I have this conversation, we're going off piece a bit here, with jazz drummers who say, I can't find that perfect Tony ride. Well, there's only one, and I think Wayne Shorter's got it, I think. But you know, I know what they're saying, they're trying to find that sound. But they don't think about what size stick he could have been using. So I know, again, we're never going to sound like it, so that's a given. But you can get close to the sort of, the ping, you know, kind of sound if you know what stick he or she used. So that's really important, and it's the same with the snare drum. So sometimes on a session I'll play either a lighter stick in one of my hands, whichever I need it. So if the hi-hat needs to be chunkier but the snare lighter, I'll sometimes, you know, 5A, 5B and a 7A or something, you know, and vice versa, I'll swap it round. So maybe that's something you should think about when you're tracking and stuff, especially live. Maybe not as much, because yeah, we know what the live situation's like. But certainly in the studio, it's a thing to think about. So that's that bad boy. And he tunes up great, he goes up very high and he'll go reasonably low, but I try not to do too much of the more modern low tunings with these vintage drums because they don't always go there very well. I'll probably contradict myself in a minute and say one does, and actually this one probably does. This I've had since the Susie days. This is, well, we know what this is, it's Ludwig 400. Classic studio snare drum. Why wouldn't everyone have one of these drums? Again, it's kind of a bit pitted in places. It's not perfect. The quality isn't perfect, especially this side. I don't know if you see that on camera, there's a bit pitting and stuff, but hey, it's got a story to tell. Yeah man, it's telling me stories. Again, I mean, what can you say about this drum? It's an industry standard. Actually, I bought one of the newer ones a little while ago, and it sounds terrible, but they make awesome drums, they really do, obviously, but it didn't feel the same. It felt too good, in a way. This has got more of a quirky character. This is the sort of drum that, you know, when I'm working at Earthworm Studios in Swindon with the great John Bucket, he'll say, he's got incredible ears, 2 of them, and he's saying things like, and I feel embarrassed that I don't know, but he'll say something like, Rob, the tuning's gone down on that drum, and I'll be like, are you sure? He goes, yeah, just a tad, it's probably the one where you're playing, you know, nearest you, or one of those, and you know, which is obvious because that's where I'm playing, so, but yeah, and he hears that, so, but he's a fan of this drum, so this is one that gets worked quite a lot. The 14x7, by the way, Stuart Bruce, producer, great producer and musician, loves that drum, as does Jenny Crook, who's a local singer, songwriter. I'm in her band, she loves, they call it the Jenny Crook snare drum. I know Tyler Spicer, another producer from NARM Studios, he loves it. Phil Andrews, another producer that I work with everywhere, he likes it, and John Bucket digs that drum as well. But this is one that John definitely always asks me to bring along. And you know, sometimes the session, you might think when I'm referencing a track, I might not think, oh, maybe the 400, but I'll still have it in the car anyway, because you never know, you could always pull it out and it always does a great job, and you think, good job I brought that bad boy along. So if you get, this is a vintage, I think 69, something like that. It's got an old Rogers head on the back there, on the back, on the bottom head, the resonant snare head. that's kind of cool. I've noticed that before. Or maybe I did. And not many snares. I'm not a fan of all these like 45 to 300 snares and stuff, because you hit your tom and it just rings even longer. But I know I get loads of messages now saying, oh, you can't be, you know, snare drums with lots of snare wires, but I'm not really into it. You know, I quite like the regulars, and I'm not sure how many that is. But yeah, now, right, these three, as you probably can tell, they're all the same drum. Now this one is a bit of player and also a bit of collector. Not all of these get used, not because I don't want to, it's just because if they're saying that they're three different characters. So basically what are they? They're six-lug Slingerland student snare drums. All of these companies made a six-lug snare because it was kind of, I always say the run to the litter, and people tell me off for that, but it was like the cheapest snare you could buy, and some of them might come in a case like this maybe, you know, with a snare stand and a teaching book in there as well. But yeah, only six lugs. So, you know, tuning wise, I said earlier about how a drum sometimes doesn't quite go where you want to. These can be a little bit funky in that way because there's only six lugs, but they give a certain thud that, but they will tune up and they can be great with brushes and very jazzy. But I like them for this character. As I say, it's like a whack. It's like a thud. It's a mid-range thud. And again, you take it down a little bit, put some moon gel on it, and it can go pretty deep. I mean, it's only a 5. It's never going to go as deep as my 7. But it gives you a great thud. I keep saying thud, but it does. It's a good thwack. And the microphones like it. Microphones are very happy with these snare drums. And when I'm dealing with John, Stuart, Phil, all of these producers, they're never like, oh, that's a bit, they're always like, sounds great, but we might need a little bit more of this, but don't worry, because we can do that afterwards. I can add a bit more of this frequency, that frequency, we can make this work. And sometimes, of course, in modern music, they just chuck a sample on it anyway, but not always. I try and get the sound at source, if I can. So, right, what are we looking at? This one I got from Drumatic, Tristan Head. Great drum shop in Radstock, but I think they're moving soon. This is a wonderful drum. It looks like champagne sparkle, but I think it's supposed to be silver, I think, but it's over the years it's kind of faded a little bit. But it's a great drum. And I love these stick chopper hoops, I believe they're called. They're just great as well. I love die-cast hoops and these kind of hoops. I mean, obviously on the 400 they're just the normal sort of flanged hoops. That's fine. But there's something about these sort of hoops that give you a great rim shot. And stick shot, you know, they're both fantastic. And I've used this drum on sessions. You will notice though on all of these, on 2 of them, I've had to take off the damper. Now if anybody knows why, put it in the comments below, see if you get it right. I think most studio drummers will know exactly why I've had to take it out. I didn't want to, and they're safe, all the screws are safe, they're in a little plastic bag, they're all good. But yeah, I had to take it out of this one. But she's a great snare drum, very pretty as well. You'll notice on this one too, a similar thing. Ooh, it's missing. Again, if you know why, put it in the comments below or let me know. And these are all 60s snares. I haven't got my glasses on, so I won't be able to look inside the shell. I'll be in there all day, so we don't want that. And this is obviously a red sparkle. This again is from Drumatic. But bizarrely, you would think these two are the same range, as is this, but I'll talk about in a minute. But they sound different. They've got different pitches. Because when I took them in the studio a little while ago, I was working with Tyler Spicer, said, let's hear those 3 drums. And they all had like a different length of note and so on and so forth. And it's just like cymbals. You know, if they're cast cymbals and not pressed, you can have 3 ranges up on the same stand of the same cymbal, you know, 16-inch thin crash, 16-inch thin crash, and 16-inch thin crash. And they're all going to be slightly different. They've all got different character and personality, which is what I love about, you know, cymbals like Vulcan and handmade cymbals and stuff like that, because they're all going to be kind of your own sound. And same with these. So this is a good one. I've used this on a few sessions. It sounds great. Unfortunately today I'm at home, so I'm not going to get the sticks out and start making a lot of noise, because I respect my neighbours and so far they respect me, so we should keep it that way. And this one I got from Rusty Drums, from Mark. This is a good one. This is, it looks like it's purple, but maybe it is. And Prince, the anniversary of Prince's death was yesterday, so maybe it's for you, man. He messaged me, because I've said to all the drum collectors and shops, vintage shops, if you get any of these student models in any of the colours, let me know, and if I've got a bit of money available, I'll pick him up. And I did at this point, though. Actually, I need to do something with this. This isn't how it wasn't like this when I got it. Took this to a session, I over tightened it slightly, got a bit overzealous, so I need to sort that out. So maybe I should get in touch with Mark or Tristan and get that lug sorted out. But it's a lovely colour. I'm not sure if the camera's picking it up properly. It kind of looks blue. In the pictures it looks blue, but when you get it, it's kind of, it's definitely purple. Purple sparkle, purple sparkle. Yeah. Again, stick chopper hoops. I think that's what they're called. And this one, I didn't have to take that out because the track we were using it on, believe it or not, it was resonating at the right pitch of the song. So actually, I've just told you, you don't need to comment now, I've just told you, I knew I'd do that. That's why I can't do any pub quizzes. I'd always give the answers away. So I could leave it in there. So it was a funky resonance this drum had, but it kind of suited the track. It was in the right key. So that's kind of weird, isn't it? But that worked out. So that's that drum as well. Again, 6-lug, student model. I mean, if you don't know about these drums, then they're not, you know, pricey, and you can get them fairly easily on Reverb and, you know, Mark and Rusty Drums and Tristan at Drum Attic and all other great shops that I could talk about. Just put in vintage drums, England, UK, you know, and you'll find some, or wherever you are in your country, do the same thing. Support these shops as well because they need it, and also give these drums a good home. So all these drums are actually players' drums. I mean, the sparkles look a bit better and they age a little bit better than the marine pearls and stuff. And the metal, obviously, on this, you know, on this sort of bad boy, it pits and it marks up. But hey, as I say, I don't get them for their looks, I get them for their sound. So these are the drums that you'll see when they're stacked up in the corner there, and sometimes you'll see when I go out in the studio. If you have any questions on any of these drums, I'll probably do a little sound bite at some point when I'm next in the studio and I've got time to do it, and I'll take them all along and give you a little. I think that's already been on Instagram. That one, I did a little snare thing on one of my Sunday morning rambles, and I think there's Red Sparkle too. But anyway, these are the drums. I am actually borrowing at the moment. I think it's called a Sound King, which is over there, which I'm not going to reach over and get. But that doesn't belong to me. That belongs to bass player Joe Short, and he's lent it to me. He's in the States at the moment. And I'm using it, and it's just a beast. It's beautiful. I think it's 14x6, is that? Steel shell, by the look of it. I don't know much about the history of it, but Eddie John, thank you for your message, by the way, my man. You told me what that drum is, because I didn't know. I've got the Slingerland book here, and I haven't had time to look in and read it to see what it is, but he's told me what it is. So it's a Sound King, and that's a demon as well. So it looks like that might be on my shopping list at some point. So Mark and Tristan, if you've got anything, let me know. So we'll leave it there. Thanks, guys. Any comments, any questions, let me know in the comments below, and let me know what drums you use. And if you want to ping some pictures on there and stuff and share that info, that would be great. So thanks for tuning in. Take care, guys. See you soon.